Unit 4, linear and absolute value functions, question number 6. So question number 6 wants us to compare features of a table versus graphs, okay? Sometimes it will also be versus equations, okay? So whenever we're comparing, guys, it seems that we have a line right here, okay? So that's a linear equation. So whenever we have a linear equation, we need to remember the general form for linear, which is y equal mx plus b, where the m represents the slope and the b represents the y-intercept. Okay, so the question reads, answer the questions below based on the graph of the function f of x and a table selected values of the function g of x. So when we see this equation right here, or this line rather, okay, so we can identify a few things. We can identify the y-intercept. So the y-intercept will be where it intercepts the y-axis, so that intercepts the y-axis at 0, -7. Okay, so it's 0 for the x and -7 for the y. It also intercepts the x-axis, so that's an x-intercept. So the coordinate for that would be 5, 0. So we also can identify the slope. So we can go from a solid point to another solid point. So this is a solid point, and the next solid point would be right here. So I will be going up 1, 2, 3 units, and then to the right 1, 2 units, and again the same thing, up 1, 2, 3 units, to the right 1, 2 units. Okay, so because we went up 3, that's a positive 3, so the slope will be up positive 3, and then to the right 2 times. Okay, so the slope is 3 over 2. So the things that we know for this, guys, is that the slope is 3 over 2, the y-intercept is 0, -7, and the x-intercept is 5, 0. Okay, so now we're going to try to evaluate what are those things for this equation right here, or for this table. Alright, so the easiest thing to identify are your intercepts for our table. So your x-intercept is when your y value is 0. In this case, another name for g of x is y. Okay, so for the table, we'll write it down here at the bottom. For the table, the y-intercept would be when x is 0, or well, the x-intercept, that's what we said we're going to find first, would be when the y value is 0, so that would be right here, so that would be 4, 0, and the y-intercept would be when x is 0, so that would be right here, and that would be 0, -8. Okay, so again, this would be the y-intercept, and this will be the x-intercept. Okay, and we know that because here the y is 0, and then here the x is 0. Okay, so now we can also identify the slope by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So, or just evaluate that this went from -8 to -6, so it changed by adding 2. But again, you can just use your rate of change formula. So it changed by adding 2, and then this changed by adding 1. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. But you can again use your formula for rate of change. The formula for rate of change is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the y2 could be the second y value, -6, minus my first y value, which is -8, divided by x2, which is 1, minus my x1, which is 0. Here, if a negative side of negative, it turns into a positive. So -6 plus 8 is positive 2. 1 minus 0 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 2. So in this case, we could find or identify the slope, and the slope would be 2. Okay, so that's what the slope would be. Okay, so in this case, we're going to try to compare a few things. So it says the y-intercept of the function is dash. So the y-intercept of function f of x, this is f of x right here. Okay, guys, it says graph of f of x. The y-intercept would be -7. The y-intercept of g of x, so that would be this function right here. The y-intercept is -8. Therefore, f of x has a y-intercept that is dash than g of x. So we need to figure out if it's greater than or less than. So -7 is a bigger number than -8 because -8 is more negative. So that means f of x is greater than g of x. So f of x y-intercept is greater than g of x. Okay, because if it's a less, it looks like an L. So let's look at the x-intercepts. So the x-intercept for f of x is 5. The x-intercept for g of x is 4. So therefore, which one is greater than or less than? So f of x, which is 5, is bigger than g of x, which is 4. So f of x is greater than g of x. Okay? And then if we were going to look at the slope for this one is 3 over 2. The slope for this one is 2. 3 over 2 is the same as 1.5. Alright? 1.5 is less than 2. So for the slope, f of x would be less than g of x. Okay? And that is how you do this question.